All right, so when a loan is paid off through a series of regular payment, it is said to be amortized, and which literally means killed off. So when a mortgage is amortized or killed off over 15 years rather than over 30 years, we saw a large amount of interest was saved. And so that's a good thing. So what adds to the interest cost is the long period over which the loan is financed. So that extra 15 years, you're paying interest extra over those 15 years. Whereas if you only do it over a period of 15 years instead of that 30, you have a less amount of time to pay off your principal. And so therefore you're going to have less time to actually have to pay interest. So although each payment is the same, with each successive payment, the interest portion is decreasing, while that portion applied to the principal actually increases. So the interest is computed using the simple interest formula, I equals PRT, which is really nice because we can do that one pretty much. Principal is equal to the balance of the loan. So whatever your initial loan was, then you're going to pay it off each month. And so your principal will go down. So you're going to change how much interest you pay each month. And as we can say, as we pay more principal, then the amount of interest is going to go down. Now, the rate again is going to be the annual interest rate, and it's going to be as a decimal. And now, because the payment is made each month, the time is 1 month over 12, or 1/12 of a year. So we have to remember to divide by 12. A document showing how the payment each month is split into interest and principal is called a loan amortization schedule. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do a short one, we're going to do a 2-row one, and then we're going to do a full loan one. So, first one, prepare a loan amortization schedule for the first 2 months of the loan, shown in the following table, around interest to the nearest penny, basically. All right, so they give us some of the nice information, so we don't have to do some of the calculations. And so we know that we have a monthly payment of 1319.91. It's a 20-year loan, no months, 5% annual interest rate, and we're borrowing $200,000, and the total number of payments is going to be 240. All right, so what we want to do is we want to basically fill in these 6 blocks. So the first things first, we have $200,000. So that's going to be our principal that we're going to make our first interest payment on. So that's going to be $200,000, so one more zero, times, and our rate is 0.05. And remember, we have to divide that by 12, and that should give us our interest there. So let's go check that out. Let's clear all that out so it's easier to see. So then we're going to multiply it by 0.05 divided by 12, because we're doing it just for 1 month. So it's going to be times 1, then we're going to divide by 12. But when we times 1, we don't really need to put that in there. And so that means our interest paid for that first month is going to be $833.33. Now, if we remember, but we can do another calculation while we're here, and it said that our monthly payments was $1,319.91. So if we subtract the monthly payment and subtract out how much interest we paid for that first month, this will tell us how much principal we paid. We only paid $486.58. So almost twice as much in interest than we got in the principal. So we're going to decrease our principal very little, but we're paying that bank a lot of interest. And then one last thing we can do is we can find out how much our loan will be on the end of that payment. So we'll take our 200,000 minus our 486.58. Oops, 8. Wrong button again. All right, and so that means we have $199,513.42 for that loan as far as your balance at the end of that time. So let's write all those numbers down. So we said that this was going to be $833.33. And then principal, we said we took, well, 1319.91 minus 833.33, and that was going to give us a principal was only $486.58. And then our balance we said was 200,000 minus the 486.58, and that we said was 199,513.42. Now, we're going to do exactly the same thing on the next line, except we're going to change from 200,000. Now our balance is 199,513.42. So we'll have 199,513.42 times 0.05 over 12. and that's going to give us how much interest. And then we're going to take the 1319.91 minus whatever that value is, and that's going to give us our principal. And then we're going to take 199,513.42 minus whatever our principal was, and that will give us our balance of our loan. So let's go do that. All right, so let's clear all that out again. And so now we're going to take 199,513 point, and that was for 2 times 0.05 divided by 12. And so 831.31 is going to be how much interest we're going to pay. And so then if we take our 19.91 minus 831.31, that's how much our principal is going to be. Remember, last time it was only 486.58. Now it's 488.60. So our principal went up and our interest went down. So it used to be 833.33. So this went down and this one went up. So it went down and up the same amount. And then our last piece is going to be the 199,513.42 minus our 488.6. And that's going to give us 199,024.82. So let's go back over here and write that down. So this one was going to be, if said 831.31. So that's 831.31. That was 488.60. And so that was 488.60. And so then that gives us 199,024.82, if I remember right. All right. So that is how we do loan amortization schedule by hand. And again, that's just the first 2 rows. Now, if we're doing this for 20 years, that means we're going to have 240 rows to do all that. So we're not going to do that by hand, I can guarantee you. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this by a spreadsheet. So we're going to use a spreadsheet to prepare a loan amortization schedule for all 240 payments for the same mortgage, basically. And then we're going to answer the following questions. All right, so let's go over to an Excel spreadsheet. And I've kind of typed it in 2 different ways. First way, I've typed it as I'm going to use the key functions that are in Excel. So this is PPMT, which is the principal payment. This one is the interest payment, IPMT. So we have 2 functions we can use to do those, and it's really nice. We just have to plug in the values that we need, and we get our answers. And then our balance is basically we're just taking our previous balance and then plus our principal, because our principal is going to look like a negative number when we get done. And so when we do that, it's going to be a subtraction actually. Now that's again using all Excel functions. Now, can we do it by hand? Yeah, we can do it by hand. And then what we have to do is we basically have to type in that payment formula, and we have to type in the interest formula and all that stuff by hand, and that's how we're going to do that. So as we can see here, we have to take our amount of a loan times, and this is going to be our annual interest rate divided by 12. Then we're going to divide that by the 1 plus our 1 minus 1 plus our interest rate divided by 12 raised to the power, and then that's going to be a negative, and that's going to be the 12 months times the number of years, and so that would give us our payments. What about principal? Well, that's just going to be how much our payment is minus how much our interest is. Well, how do we figure out interest? Well, interest is going to be just our uh, our balance from the previous month times our interest rate divided by 12. Okay. And so that all is going to fill in when we do it. And again, we're going to have, if we go all the way down here, we'll have, I did it all the way because I also did a 360, but this one is, it's really only 240 years because at 200 or 240 payments, because at that point we're going to be done. This should be 0 on those 2 positions there when we're done. So let's type in what we know. So we know the annual interest rate was, again, that one was 5%. Number of years, we're going to do 20 years. Number of payments per year is 12. And the amount of the loan was $200,000. All right, so what do we know? Well, at 1319.91, that's what they told us was going to be our monthly payment. So guess what? We use the payment function, and that's basically what we find out again, what we did for payment. And if we remember, that was just the same as this. And so we've done that again here. And so that's going to be what our payment is. Now, like I said, it fills in the rest of the table for me. So my balance, I'm just saying, okay, well, the initial balance is going to be how much my loan payment was. Okay. My new balance is going to be the old balance and then plus however much I'm subtracting off for principal. So I'm taking off the 486.58. And so then that gives me my new balance. And that's going to keep going down. Now, these two, again, the PPMT, that's the principal payment. And so we just use the values given up here and it plugs it in and we have that. So principal payment, again, it's rate, the number of times per whatever. And so that's going to be or whatever, what number it is. So in this case, we have to write down what payment we're on. So like on zero payment, it's not going to be in. First payment, then it's going to be in that one. So it's going to be that A10. And then B2, that's going to be the number of years. B3, that's the number of payments per year. And B4, that's how much our loan amount was. Okay, so that's going to be how we get that one. Now, let's get out of there so we don't, oops, get off. So we don't change it. So now this one, interest payment, what is it? Well, it's the rate again. And so again, we're gonna have to divide by 12 because we want it as a monthly payment. A10 is the first payment. B2, that's number of years. B3, that's the number of payments per year. And B4, that's the loan amount. And so that gives us our interest payment. And then that subtraction and just works our way down. And so over here, what did we do? Well, and see, on this one, I actually calculated the payments each time, and I really don't have to do it every time because it's the same. But that's the payments, and then the principal is going to be this, and that's just going to be our interest subtracted off of the payment, and that gives us our principal. Interest is just our value of the loan amount times our 0.05, which is the B1 over here, and divided by 12. So those are pretty easy as far as that. And then this is just the subtraction. And then it's another subtraction. We take our original balance minus how much we paid in principal, and we get that. And if we work our way down, we can see our amount of our loan is going down until we hit zero. And as also we can see as we go down, look at our column I and column J or column B and column C. You know, as the one goes up, the other goes down. So if we remember, our interest started out higher and our principal started out lower. Then as we go down, you know, they're getting higher for the principal, lower for interest. You know, at this point here, we're already more principal than we have interest. So that's a good thing because, you know, that's how we want it to be. So, you know, like after was 80 payments, you know, we already have more interest or more payment principal than we have interest. And so then we get down to the bottom. The very last month is very little bit interest and almost all is principal. So I think we have some other questions to answer here. And so what is the balance of the loan after 24 payments? So then we have to look at line 24. And then we also have to find out for which payment is the amount applied towards the principal greater than the interest. Okay, that's a good one. And when is it less than 100,000? All right, so let's go over here. And so they wanted to know after 24 payments. So 24 payments, our loan is going to be 187,745.08, and it doesn't matter which one we do it. It's the same both ways. Now, which one is the amount applied towards the principal greater than the interest? Well, we were down in the 80s here, so let's look here. So this one is more here. Here it looks like at payment 75, we have more principal than we have interest. So that would be 75 for 2. And for 3, when is it less than 100,000 for our balance? All right, so it looks like here. So it looks like on payment 149. All right, so that makes it real easy because if you had to do all these calculations by hand, that would take you pretty much most of the day. So what is the balance? Well, we said that was at $187,745.08. We said it was after 75 payments, and this one was after 149. Okay, so that's how we can use the amortization schedule to find different pieces as we go through. Now, another nice thing is, you know, we only have 1319.91 as a monthly payment, but if we have extra money some months, we can apply it strictly to principal, and then that's going to bring our balance of our loan down quicker, which means the next month our principal amount's going to be higher and our interest payment's going to be lower. So if we can pay more each month, that's going to make our interest overall, how much we pay, less in the long run. All right, so let's stop there and we'll come back for more.